Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're holding an invisible backpack. Inside it are all your heartaches, regrets, unspoken words, and lost opportunities. Now feel the weight of this backpack on your shoulders. It's heavy, isn't it? Each day that passes, you add another brick of resentment, another stone of, what if I had done things differently? And so you walk through life, bent over by the weight of a past you can no longer change, but that you insist on carrying as if it were your greatest treasure. The story I'm going to tell you today happened a few months ago when I met Elena, a 52-year-old woman who worked as a librarian in a small countryside town. Elena had eyes that seemed to carry all the sadness in the world, and whenever someone asked how she was doing, she would respond with a forced smile. Fine, moving forward. But the truth is that Elena wasn't moving forward. She was trapped in a time prison, constantly reliving a decision she made 15 years ago. When Elena was 37, she received a job offer from a major publishing house in New York. It was her life's dream, the opportunity to work with the books she loved so much, to be part of the literary world that had always fascinated her. But at that time, her mother was sick, her father needed care, and leaving the small town where she was born seemed like a betrayal to her family. So Elena did what many of us do. She chose what seemed right at the time, turned down the offer, and stayed to take care of her parents. Years passed. Her parents died 2 years apart from each other, and Elena found herself alone at 50, working the same job as always, living in the same house as always, living the same routine as always. But what tormented her most wasn't the routine, it was the what if. What if she had accepted that offer? What if she had been brave enough to follow her dream? What if her parents would have been fine without her? These questions echoed in her mind every day, turning each morning into a new courtroom where she judged herself guilty for a life she didn't live. It was during a rainy afternoon at the library that Elena met Mr. Augustus, a 78-year-old man who visited the place daily. Augustus had an aura of peace that contrasted with Elena's visible anguish. He always picked up the same book of poetry, sat in the same chair by the window, and read with a serenity that caught attention. One day, Elena couldn't contain her curiosity anymore and asked why he always read the same book. Augustus smiled in a way that lit up his entire wrinkled face and said, "Because every time I read it, I discover something new. The words are the same, but I have changed. And when we change, everything changes with us." Elena felt something stir inside her chest, a spark of hope that had been extinguished for a long time. She sat next to him and, without knowing why, began to tell her whole story, all her pain, all her regret. Augustus listened in silence, nodding occasionally, until Elena finished her confession. Then he closed the book, looked directly into her eyes, and said something that would change her life forever. "My dear, you are living as if you were a prisoner of a crime you never committed. Loving and caring for family is not a mistake. Making difficult choices is not a failure. The only real mistake you are making is wasting the years you still have, lamenting the years that are gone." He continued, "I also had my what-ifs. When I was young, I wanted to be a musician, but my father wanted me to be an engineer. I chose to please my father and worked 40 years building bridges. For decades, I wondered what my life would have been like if I had followed music. But you know what I discovered at 65? That I built incredible bridges that connected people, that withstood storms, that still serve the community today. And more importantly, I discovered it's never too late to make music. I started playing guitar at 66, and today, at 78, I play at church every Sunday." Augustus's words echoed in Elena's heart like an awakening. She realized that she had spent 15 years looking back with so much focus that she completely forgot to look forward. She had become an expert at counting lost days, but an amateur at recognizing the days she still had ahead. That night, Elena did something she hadn't done in years. She took paper and pen and began to write. Not about the past, not about regrets, but about possibilities. She wrote about the books she still wanted to read, the trips she wanted to take, the people she wanted to meet. She wrote about the independent publishing house she could open in her own town, about the book clubs she could create, about the children she could teach to love books. 2 weeks later, Elena went to the town's mayor with a proposal to transform the library into a cultural center, with writing workshops, poetry readings, and literary events. The proposal was accepted, and within 6 months, the small library became the cultural heart of the city. If this story is touching something inside you, if you see yourself in Elena's anguish or in Augustus's wisdom, I have a special invitation. How about pausing for a moment and thinking, what is the invisible backpack you are carrying? In the comments, tell our community what is the what if that torments you the most, but do it in a different way. Instead of only talking about regret, also share one possibility you see in your present. And subscribe to the channel because stories like this are what I love sharing most with you, and I want you to be here for the next ones. A few months later, Elena received an unexpected phone call. It was from a national publishing house that had heard about the cultural project she developed. They wanted to hire her as a consultant to implement similar projects in other cities. The irony of life. The opportunity she thought she had lost forever was now knocking at her door again, but this time she was prepared in a completely different way. You know, Elena told me the last time we spoke, I used to think my life had been one big miscalculation. But now, I understand that every choice brought me exactly where I needed to be, not to the life I imagined, but to the life that was truly mine. The most beautiful lesson about letting go of the past is not about forgetting or pretending nothing happened. It's about understanding that we are the sum of all our choices, including the ones we thought were wrong. It's about recognizing that the time spent regretting is the only time truly wasted. It's about realizing that our story doesn't end at the point where we made a mistake or lost an opportunity. Our story continues to be written every day we decide to live fully. The past is like a tree. Its roots sustain us, but we must not live buried in them. The roots exist to give us strength to grow toward the sun, not to keep us trapped underground. When we finally understand this, we discover that carrying the past as a burden is a choice, just as carrying it as wisdom is also a choice. Today, Elena is 54 years old and shines in a way that lights up everyone around her. She hasn't forgotten the 15 years of torment, but she has transformed them into compassion for others who live trapped in their own time prisons. The cultural center she created has become a refuge for people like her who needed to learn that it is never too late to start again. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this story resonated with you. And I want you to know that you are not alone on this journey of learning to let go of what needs to be released. Subscribe to the channel to be part of this amazing community we're building, a community where we share not just stories, but real transformations. In the comments, I want to know, after watching this video, what changed in your perspective about your own past? What lesson will you take from this story? Let's build together a space where everyone who passes by leaves a little lighter, a little more hopeful, and much more connected to what truly matters. Your story matters, your transformation matters, and I can't wait to get to know you better. See you in the next video.